Kadosh, Boker Or, Shavua Tov, Masechet Gittin Daf Samech Aleph Amud Aleph 61a1 says the Gemara. It's a second line by the two dots where it says Mitziat Cheresh Shotev Katan. They only have Gezel because of Darkei Shalom, and Rabbi Yosef says it's Gezel Gamur, which means that imagine right now a little boy comes and he finds $100 bill on the floor. So technically speaking, even if you're going but technically speaking, it's only his because of Darkei Shalom. Meaning, you're not going to start fighting with him. And why? Because if not, the father's going to come and start fighting with you, and because of Balagam. But really, Be'emet, if you would take that $100 bill from the boy, it's yours. Why? There's no kinyan for the boy. However, the Rabbi Yosef says, no, that's Gezel Gamur. You stole from him. If you're going to take away the $100 bills from this boy, you stole from him. Amar Rav Chasta, or says Rav Chasta, Gezel Gamur midivrehem. Even if you're going to tell me it's Gezel Gamur, it's not Gezel Gamur midoraita. Because Doraita, it's not going to be Gezel Gamur. It's only Midivrehem. Midivrehem means Midrabbanan. The May Nafkamina. What's a Nafkamina? Leotzio B'dayanim. To take him out with Dayanim. What does that mean? Can I take it out by going to Bet Din? Because if you're going to tell me right now, right, that according to that Tanakama, if you're going to be Oved, Bet Din doesn't take it out. But according to Rabbi Yosef, since it is considered Gezel Gamur, you do take it out from Bet Din. Meaning that if you will go to a Bet Din, if Be'emet, it's only because of Darkei Shalom, whatever you already did, you did it. That's it. You took it away from him, you took it away. We're not going to force you to come and do anything, right? We can't force you to give it back. But if it's Gezel Midivrehem, meaning Gezel Midrabanan, you go to a Betin and Betin will force them to take it out, right? Fine. Next two dots. Ani amnakef v'rosh zayit. Imagine right now you have an ani, that he's working around the top of an olive tree. So they said that whatever is underneath him is also yours. Why? Sorry, not yours. It's of the Anis. Why? Because of Masechta is also of the Ani, because of Darkei Shalom. And Rabbi Yosef says again, Gezel Gamur. Tana, we learned in a Braita, Im liket venatan bayad, hareze Gezel Gamur, which means what happens if the Ani came and he started plucking them off one by one? And then he put them on the ground. So that's Gezel Gamur. Meaning, we were talking about before that you're doing all these things and it fell. So if it falls on the floor, Machloket, Darkei Shalom, or Gezel Gamur. Again, remember, the Gezel Gamur would also be the Midivrem. But is it going to be, now we're saying, but 1 second, what happens if the Ani plucked it off? And now he put it down on the floor. That, according to everybody, is going to be Gezel Gamur. Rav Kahana v'Ka'azi lehutzal. Rav Kahana was traveling to Hutzal. Chazielu Gavra, he saw this person to have a shadi ufi, that he was throwing, right, his stick on the palm tree, the kanatran tamre, and was knocking down dates. Azal kaman kidvachi. So Rav Kahana came and he started eating the dates. So imagine this guy's walking around, hitting the tree, right, and the dates are falling. Comes Rav Kahana behind and he starts eating the dates. Not bad, no? He starts eating the dates. It's good. You're doing all the work for me. What's the problem? Good. So Elmaleh tells him, Chazi mor debidai shidatinu. 1 second. But I'm coming and I already took it in my hand. And then I put it on the floor. So therefore, how are you going to come and take it away from me? Right? I have it in my hand. Once I have it in my hand, I made a kinyan. If I made a kinyan, it's Gezel Mina Torah. Right? That's it. Because here it's Mamash Gezel Mina Torah because I made a kinyan. I acquired it. Elmaleh, he says, he says, 1 second. I see you are from the city of Rabbi Yoshia, and therefore you're a baki in dinim. Because Rabbi Yoshia used to come and always teach them halachot of choshen mishpat and all these things. So I see that you come from the city, therefore you're kari aleh. So he called on him, the tzaddik yesod olam. Right? What is the connection between tzaddik yesod olam and this? There's a Khatam Sofer apparently, but I don't know what he says. Very interesting. But he just says, Tzaddik Yesod Olam. Fine. Okay? Next. En memachin biyad aniyeh nochrim peleke b'shicha uvpeah minei darkei shalom. What happens if you have a goy that he's collecting leket shicha uvpeah? He's an ani, a goy ani, but he's collecting like a... We don't say it to anything. We don't tell him anything. Why? Because of the darkei shalom, we let him collect with everybody else. Tanu Rabbanan, we used to learn in the Braita, do you know that we actually give parnasa to the Aniyeh Nochrim with Aniyeh Yisrael? And we visit the sick, Aniyei Nochrim with Aniyei Yisrael. We're even going to bury them with Metei Yisrael. Why? Shalom. Here it says it doesn't mean that you're going to bury them in the Jewish cemetery, right? Because you don't put a tzaddik beside the rasha, but rather, right, if you find them killed, you take care of the kvura, meaning that you'll bury them in their cemetery, but you don't agoy. Yes, yeah, we're not just going to ignore it. You understand? Why? All these things because of Darkei Shalom. There's a Mishnah, Mashelet Isha lechaverta chashuda la shevi'it. Again, these are all Mishnayot that have to do with Darkei Shalom, which means because of peace, because you don't want to make problems. So, a woman could borrow, right? She could actually lend out another woman, whether it's Perot Shvit and to watch it and all those things, even though she's suspected of Shvit. Or, for example, a stiv, right? Or these are the mills, right? Or the ovens. Right now, even though it could be that maybe she's going to start preparing things with shavit, which is overa vera, right? But you're allowed to lend it to her. That means you're allowed to lend. That means basically this. Let's say she's coming and she's suspected that maybe she's working on shemitah, right? So but you're still allowed to lend her an oven. Maybe she's taking the thing of the shemitah and she's, baking in it, or she's coming and taking with a meal that you're lending her, right? She's grinding all the. You're allowed to, no problem. But you're not allowed to do it with her. Meaning, because if you do it with her, it means that you're doing the yisul with your hands. But if you just lend it to her, okay, hopefully she's doing something of a ter and she's not doing something of yisul. The same halacha would apply to the wife of a Tamil Chacham. She can lend out to the wife of an Amaris, right, right, and also, but here the difference is she could even do borer with her, she could grind with her, she could do everything with her. Aval, but once she puts the water, lo tigaima. She shouldn't touch it. Because we don't want to help, meaning beforehand that process, it's an amaretz. So therefore, maybe they're going to be doing on nisur. Here it doesn't actually say, the Gemara is going to say what type of nisur, like what's the difference, right, between one case and another. The kulan lo amru, but all of them we didn't say, only because of the Darkei Shalom. We're going to help the nochrim during the Shvit, but not through a Jew. We're also going to say hello to the Goyim, because of Darkei Shalom. Says the Gemara, Maishna Reisha or Mashna Seifa. What's the difference between the Reisha and the Seifa? Why is it in the Reisha, when you had a Jew that he suspected of Shavi'it, of Shemitah, you're allowed to lend him the utensils, the items, the machinery, but you're not allowed to do anything with him? And why the Seifa, you're allowed to lend it to them, and you're even allowed to help them until it gets to the water. And once it gets to the water to make the dough, now no. What's the difference? Amar Abai, it says, Rov Ame'aretz Masrinin. The majority of the Me'aretz, they take off Maaser. And therefore, since they take off Maaser, so therefore they said, you know what? You could actually come and, do all these things with them, right? But to do a Shemitah, they didn't permit it. Shemitah is much worse. So says Rava says, Hacha here, Be'am ha'aretz de Rabbi Meir. Here we're talking about an ha'aretz of Rabbi Meir, which means that we know, right, that he takes off Maaser, but he's not careful in eating chulin betahara. The tuma betahara is only midrabbanan, right? Because the Torah didn't tell you that you're allowed to eat chulin betuma. You know what chulin is? Chulin is regular food. So you'd have the food, you took off Truma Gdola, you gave it to the Kohen. You took off Maaser Rishon, you gave it to the doctor, to the Levi. The Levi took off Trumat Maaser, or Maaser Mina Maaser, which is another 10%, and he gave it to the Kohen. And then you took off Maaser Sheni or Maaser Ani. So Maaser Sheni, who gets it? Maaser Sheni. The person himself. The person himself takes the second 10%. He goes to Jerusalem and he buys food and he eats it in Yerushalayim. But again, if he has to redeem it, so he has to add a fifth. And if it's Maaser Ani, which is going to be on years 3-6, Chazak Baruch, right? So what happens? So it goes to the Anim. Yeah, you see, you have the encyclopedia here. Yeah, right. Every time. Yeah. So this is the Chat GPT that we have. Yeah, we have it. We trained them well. Yeah. Yeah. So he says. So what happens is that 1 second. If you already took off all the Trumot Masrot, the food is now chulin. Chulin, you could do whatever you want with it. You could eat it even though you're tameh. There's no problem. There's no isur of eating it. But the rabbis come and they say it's always better to eat chulin b'ta'ara. So therefore, that's what he says over here. Tumah v'ta'ara is midrabanan. The Tanya is willing to the Braita. Ezu amaretz. Who's in amaretz? Kol she'eno ochel chulin b'ta'ara. Anybody that's not going to eat chulin b'ta'ara. These are the words of Rabbi Meir. Hachamim omrim. Kol she'eno me'aser perotav. Anybody that doesn't take off maaser from his fruits. So says the Gemara. So therefore, according to our Mishnah, we were talking about that since a person was talking about an amaretz only according to Rabbi Meir, the tumah v'ta'ara. So therefore, the maaser, I'm not worried about the maaser. He took off maaser. Right? But what are we talking about? We're talking about according to the Rabbanan of Tumah V'Tara. V'hami diktani seifa, that which we learned in the seifa, mishet tzilat mayim, once she put the water, lo tigaima, right? You're not supposed to touch it. Mikal dereisha lavitot, so that means obviously the reisha is not from Tumah V'Tara. So says the Gemara, no. Reisha v'seifa v'Tumah V'Tara. The reisha is talking about Tumah V'Tara. Reisha v'Tumat Chulin, v'seifa v'Tumat Chala. The reisha is talking about Tumat Chulin, because there's no chiyuv of chala yet. Meaning, until you don't make it into a dough, there's no frashat chala. Frashat chala only starts after you make it into a dough. So when you add the water to the flour, and then you make it into the dough, now you have a frashat chala. Okay, but until then, there's no frashat chala. So because of that, the reisha is talking about tumat chuli. And therefore, right, since there was no frashat chala, the yisur of the chulin is only the rabbanan. They didn't ask you to come in there. They come in, you're allowed to come, you're allowed to do whatever you want. The Seifa is talking about Mina Torah, because once you added the water, that's it. And once you add the water, now it's Chayav in Chala. So therefore they tell you don't touch it. So in Minu, we have a contradiction. Samech Aleph Amubet, 61b. Tochanin umafkidin etzel ochle shevit, ve'etzel ochle perotehem betumah. So it says, what happens is like this. What does it say over here? Is the contradiction is that the Braita comes and it says, that you're allowed to grind tivua, and you're allowed to give it to people that they eat shavit, or people that eat it betuma. But not the people that they come and they eat perot shavit and perot tuma, right? Because you're not allowed to help them doing an avirah. Meaning all these things are that we don't want you to help people that are doing avirot. Because if you help people doing avirot, it's like you're doing it yourself. So Amar Abaye says, Hatam over there, no, there we're talking about a kohen that he's suspected of eating truma betum'ah. We know that a kohen or anybody that eats truma, so if it's a zar that eats truma, chayam ita b'dei shamayim, right? That means a stranger cannot eat truma. Okay? How do you translate vizar? Chiloni. A chiloni is a stranger, right? That's unkus. Unkus says chiloni, right? Chilonai. So he comes and he says this. So therefore, if you have a stranger that eats truma, truma can only be eaten by the kohanim. Mita b'dei shamayim. Let's say you have the kohen's eating the truma. There's no problem. What happens if the truma becomes tameh? You have to, what do you do? Burn it. So you have to burn it. Here, he's eating it. Meaning this kohen is suspected of eating truma betum'ah. So therefore it's truma doraita. So since it's truma doraita, you're not allowed to help him. Right? However, though, the eating of the chulin tamim is only with the rabbanan. Meaning chulin tameh is only with the rabbanan. Truma tameh is doraita. It's a big difference. So therefore, that's why there's going to be. So says the Gemara, "Ihachiv so mafkidi." Why are you allowed to be mafkid? And why are you allowed to give him over things to watch over? Maybe he's going to start switching things or being mitameh. What's going on? Well, meaning we have a contradiction. Mafkidin truma etzel salam haaretz v'lo etzel kohen haaretz v'neshli bo gasba. He says you could give truma as a security, meaning to watch over, to a Yisrael haaretz. Why? Since he's not used to truma, he won't eat it. He won't touch it. By kohen haaretz, you're not allowed to, because maybe he's going to start to. He's used to it. He eats truma. He does all these things. So Amar Bilah says, what we deal with. We're talking about a kli cheres, right? Which is mukaf, which is surrounded by tzamid patil. Tzamid patil is by an enclosed box, basically. Okay, and therefore, since it's going to be closed, right? So it's like a kisui, which is connected to the utensil. So therefore, he's not going to touch it because it's like sealed. Imagine I give you a sealed box. You're not going to open it. It's closed. So if you just have to remove a tape is nothing. Why do you think that when you're going to transport meat, fish, milk products, you have to have 2 seals, right? Why? Because if I'm going to come, he just takes off 1 seal, does whatever he wants, puts it back on, that's it. So you have to have a double seal. Because double seal stops that if he's going to break it, you can notice. You can notice. It's very, very important to know. So says the Gemara, right? Nida, 1 second. Maybe the wife, she's a Nida, and she's going to move it. And we know that a Nida contaminates things. Right? A Nida during the 7 days of Nida, until she doesn't go to the mikveh, she contaminates things. She's a Nida. It's Tum'ah. Yeah, I remember in Morocco, somebody told me that when his wife was a Nida, he was talking about his mother, right? You know what we're talking about, right? So, but when he was talking about his mother, he said when she was a Nida, nobody would sit in her seat. Nobody would sit in her chair. It was like something like mamash, like like mamash. They had these things of tumah v'taram. We're talking nowadays that Rabbi Yirmiyah, but rather Rabbi Yirmiyah says, La kashya, it's not a question. Kan shuchshiru beperot, kan beperot shuchshiru. Here, right, we're talking about beperot shuchshiru, which means this. For a fruit has to become susceptible for tumah. If you have a fruit on the tree and you never watered the tree in order you wanted the water to be there, it never became susceptible for tumah. Right? When you're giving water on the fruit, that's when it becomes susceptible, right, for tumah. Any type of a liquid of the 7 liquids, yad shachadam, it's going to make the fruit susceptible for tumah. So we have a contradiction. Imagine right now you take wheat to a tochen, to a grinder that's a goy, a kuti, or to an amaretz. So therefore, we're not going to suspect that he's going to switch them. Which means to do with tum'ah, we suspect maybe he touched them and he made them tameh. But to do with shvi, we're not going to suspect that he's going to switch the merchandise. So it says the Gemara, what's the contradiction? Didn't we already say we're talking about fruits that weren't susceptible for tum'ah? If we're talking about perot, shiru, they weren't susceptible. So says the Gemara, so what was the havamin? What did you think then? When you asked the question, what did you mean then? So it says Gemara, because I wanted to ask another question on it. There are certain cases that they have a chazakah to do with ma'aser and shvit. But what? We're not going to suspect that they're going to switch the merchandise. We have a contradiction. If somebody gives, right, to the mother-in-law. Now the mother-in-law is the wife of an amaretz, meaning, right, he, Baruch Hashem, he's a ben Torah, the wife is a ben Torah, but the mother-in-law is an amaretz, and the father-in-law. So he got married to the daughter of an amaretz, right? But the daughter's a good girl. She learned, she's this, Beis Yaakov girl, a good girl. But the parents are amaretzot. Midoraita u midrabbana. According to all opinions. Amaretz. Shu notel la, shu notel mi emena. So it says over here, he's me'aseret ha'isa. He has to take off ma'aser that he gives to her, and the ma'aser that he takes away from her. Why? Because we suspect that she's going to switch it. We suspect that she's going to switch the bread, right? What does that mean? Let's say her bread didn't come out as good, so she switches it. Right? The best bread that comes out, she comes and she takes it. Imagine, she put it in the oven, one bread came out perfect. The other bread, right, which was really your bread, it came out much better than hers. So what did she do? Oops, she swaps it. So because of that, you take off of both. You have to take off maaser before giving it to her, and you have to take off the maaser when you take it back from her, because we suspect that she switches it. Answers the Gemara, no. Hatam to the time that there it's different. Why? Amar Rabbi Yehuda says, "Rotzahi betakana bita ubosha mechatana." There, it's the exact opposite. There, she wants the best for her daughter, and she's embarrassed of her son-in-law. So the exact opposite. If her bread is going to come out better than the bread of her daughter, she's embarrassed. She's going to give it to the son-in-law bad bread. So what is the son-in-law going to say about her? So what does she do? She switches it. She gives her bread, right, in order that the son-in-law and the daughter, they get good bread. And then the son-in-law always praises the mother-in-law. Ah, what a mother-in-law that I have. Yeah, no, Baba Hakim. You always want to praise the mother-in-law, no? What a mother-in-law that you have. Yeah? So what happens? You come and I want to. So therefore, she's going to switch it. So says the Gemara, fine. Forget about now mother-in-laws, daughter-in-laws. All right, let's keep politics out of the question. Yeah. You don't suspect that people just switch? Think about it. A person could have a big yitzhara. What's the big deal to come and to switch? Yeah, what's the big deal? So he says, we learned in the Mishnah, right? Hanoten lepundakit. If somebody is going to be mitachsen, right? What does that mean? He's going to be mitachsen by an amaretz. He's going to be a guest by an amaretz. V'noten lepundakit. He can give to the pundakit, to the wife, basically the innkeeper. Yeah, in order to bake for him. Same thing. The same halacha. She's going to come and she's going to switch it. Now, why exactly is she going to come and she's going to switch it? What's going on? So answers the Gemara. Hatam Moria ve'amra. Over there, right? It says over here like this. Over there, right? She's going to show that she's doing a mitzvah when she's switching the lechem, right? With meaning she's going to say that what? I'm doing a mitzvah to switch the lechem. Bar beirav lechol chamima, because the Talmid Chacham should eat, right, very hot bread. And I'm going to eat the cold one. Meaning like this, the reason why she's switching is not to the detriment of the person that came, to her own detriment. She's mora heter to herself, because she's going to say, you know what, look, I'm going to give her this. Sorry, I'm going to give him this in order that he's able to eat good bread. I'll eat the good bread. I'll eat the cold bread. I'm going to give him the fresh bread that just came out of the oven, but that fresh bread really was mine. I'm going to give him that bread. But she just switched it. So by her switching it, I just was over in the Isur. So because of that, I have to separate both, right? What I give her, what I'm taking back from her. So says Kati, fine, forget about now the innkeeper or whatever, but we're still not going to suspect people switch. Vatani, we learned in the Braita, Eshet Chaver Tochenet in Eshet Amaretz. The wife of a Chaver is going to be Tochenet with the wife of an Amaretz. Bizman she Tmeah, during the time that she's going to be Tmeah. Aval lo bizman she Torah, but not during the time that she's going to be Torah. Rabbi Shimon ben Elazar says, Af bizman she Tmeah lo titchon. Even during the time that she's going to be Tmeah, she shouldn't do the Tchina, she shouldn't grind it. Because her friend is going to be giving it to her, and she's going to be eating. So 1 second. If right now the Eshet Hamaretz is going to be suspected mamash of stealing, she's not going to be suspected of switching? Meaning what's worse, switching or stealing? Obviously stealing. So if you suspect her of stealing, you're going to suspect her of switching. So the Gemara answers were on Samech Bet Mudalef on the top. Amar Rav Yosef says, Yosef Hatanami Moria ve'amra. She's going to say, Torah mi disher kachil. Right? The shore is the one that's eating it, which means I'm allowed to come and eat it because of the shore and everything that he's eating, meaning the ox, which is doing the threshing, right? So therefore, that's why. But in a regular case, we're not going to say. I mean that they permit it because they give a heter to themselves, and because that it's going to be permitted.